The original Hunger Games books ended on a semi-hopeful note. Snow was killed, and President Coin was assassinated by Katniss before Coin could repeat his mistakes. With Coin removed, the new system was forced into a democracy, and a leader was elected by the voice of the people. However, this was a relatively new system, and Katniss herself remained damaged, not only from her time being used by the Capitol, but from the period of imprisonment she endured following her killing of Coin. Katniss, while looking towards a future with Peeta and 2 unnamed children, will never be the same. One would hope, after everything Katniss and Peeta have been through, that they'd have a happily ever after, and the democracy they fought for would flourish. Unfortunately, history has demonstrated that this is seldom the case. While democracies can excel, corruption is inevitable, and those who began with good intentions can be twisted by their newfound power. As such, the government formed within the ashes of Snow's regime will likely face setbacks. While a sequel series exploring what this new society would look like might not be as high stakes, the smaller conflicts explored, as well as being realistic, could make for gripping sequels. From rebel factions to the effect of such a shaky system on Katniss's children, there are at least 5 reasons I'd like to see a sequel series covering Panem post-Snow. Before we continue, I'm Riley and this is Otherworldly Fiction. On this channel, I rant about books, discuss characters and lore, share my bookish opinions, and offer the occasional writing advice. If any of that sounds like your cup of tea, hit the subscribe button. The system established following the deaths of Snow and Coin will begin as a good one, but from a combination of discontent and greedy third parties, it won't remain stable for long. From the chance to see the children of Peeta, Katniss, and Finnick, to how the government will function or crumble, here are 5 reasons a sequel series is necessary. Reason number 1. Unsatisfied Rebels. After the rebels captured the Capitol, Coin calls the tributes together to vote on a proposal, that of hosting a final Hunger Games, but one which draws from the pool of living Capitol children. Understandably, Katniss is horrified by the idea. She fought not only for her country, but for her sister to end the Hunger Games, and she wonders if it wasn't a discussion like this one which led to their creation in the first place. Coin offers a reason for her proposal. Many of those in the districts remain furious with the Capitol, and feel those citizens who benefited from their oppression should be answerable somehow. As a method of quelling these resentments, Coin sees a symbolic Hunger Games as a way to dispel the growing unrest while shedding the least amount of blood. Though we can all agree that Coin's proposal is reprehensible, the concerns behind them are valid. Plenty of dictators believe they are doing the right thing, and many of their more extreme actions are done out of a desire to do good. With Coin's idea tossed aside following her death, many of those from the rebels or districts will be looking for blood. At the very least, they'll want to see someone punished for the wrongs they've endured. From mothers who have lost children to the reaping, to those who have suffered starvation or familial loss from other abuses, many won't be content with former Capitol citizens getting off scot-free. As leaders are rotated in by vote, it's not impossible that a new leader, hoping to either satisfy their own anger or address these concerns, could raise the same proposal. Plenty of people in District 13 have a similar mindset to Coin, and should a bitter rebel gain control of Panem, he or she could see their new platform as an opportunity to enact revenge. Meanwhile, before such a Hunger Games is even proposed, there could be plenty of unrest. From rebel groups burning down Capitol homes, to former Capitol citizens being hunted down and killed by vigilantes, the new society isn't going to be satisfied and peaceful overnight. Reason number 2, rebellious Capitol citizens. Former citizens of the districts are the rebels won't be the only unsatisfied parties. Many in the Capitol, particularly those who have been pampered and kept in ignorance, will struggle with the change. Likely expected to work and otherwise contribute to society, there will be those in the Capitol who will fight to restore the previous system, so that they might regain their lavish lifestyles. Those who are more intelligent may even manipulate the dumbed-down members of the Capitol, framing the rebels as uncultured barbarians eager to destroy their culture and way of life. Worse, a government run by former rebels may actually mistreat former Capitol citizens, making their resentments valid. Even if a new Hunger Games isn't proposed, the roles of tyrant and rebel could be reversed, with Capitol citizens being afforded less rights and privileges than their district counterparts. From being paid inferior wages to not being hired at all, the citizens of the Capitol could be abused. After all, poverty, as we learn in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, isn't actually a new thing for the supposed upper crust. Snow himself endured poverty, and he knew people within the Capitol who starved, making his bitterness towards those who rebelled in the original rebellion understandable. Should the rebels again hurt the Capitol to the same degree, the same justifications could be raised by the Capitol for wresting control. Propelled by actual suffering, they would be even more dangerous than if they had simply been forced to pull their weight. Whatever the case, whether they are actually hurt or simply pushed to contribute, there will be many former Capitol citizens unhappy with the new status quo. And while citizens of the districts outnumber them, they could still wreak havoc. Moreover, being outnumbered didn't prevent them from taking over the first time. With another rebellion, this time led by Capitol citizens, threatening to rise, the new government won't know peace for some time. Reason number 3, competing factions looking for control. If unsatisfied citizens weren't enough, be they district or capital, there will be those who, regardless of affiliation, will see an unstable government as an opportunity for power. Counting on the weakness of the rebel-led regime generally, or taking advantage of a shifting hierarchy, there would be plenty of third-party factions looking for a foot in the door. Whether they saw new ways to make money, or secured positions as politicians themselves, these factions would game the green system to benefit themselves. Such groups would be a mixture of those looking to claw themselves from lifelong poverty and others eager to regain the power they had under Snow. But all would have the same motivation: to seize power for themselves while the sand is still shifting. While many would cause harm through their words and more clandestine actions, others looking to destabilize the new government for their own gain could go on the offensive. From seizing control of individual districts to lighting fires or blowing up important places, these factions could throw Panem into chaos. The new government, however well-meaning, will be vulnerable. Resources overall will already be exhausted from the rebellion against Snow. And what kind of army will the new regime have? After all, even if some peacekeepers are content to switch sides and fight for whoever will pay them, just as many will either be tried as criminals or refuse to bow to those who killed their precious Snow. What's more, many would resent any former peacekeepers being given the chance to continue serving. In short, whatever remains of Snow's force will be decimated at best and rejected at worst, leaving the government without a reliable army. Between that and the unrest, it would be only too easy for third-party groups to take advantage, potentially even flaming the resentments felt by capital and district citizens alike for their own gain. Reason number 4, continuing corruption. While I've covered the problems which would likely afflict Panem, I haven't discussed the government. Simply being new will make it a target for those dissatisfied, and it will need time to stabilize, as well as to establish rules, build resources, and form a military. Meanwhile, the government itself, being composed of human beings, will be open to corruption. Any leader, even one who is elected or otherwise chosen by the people, can be corrupt. Just look at Donald Trump. While he was an obvious tyrant, it can be easy to forget that the common people elected him in the first place. And Panem's government will face similar pitfalls. From capital citizens savvy enough to keep their hold, to rebels looking to enjoy a similarly cozy lifestyle, there will be politicians, including those the people have chosen, who will take advantage. Some may take bribes or hire sex workers. Some will steal money for themselves to emulate the capital lifestyle. And others, especially those in the upper echelon, may, as I noted before, reboot the Hunger Games for their own reasons. From the leader of the government to those serving it in their own positions of power, there will be abuses. From district and capital alike, because humans in general are prone to corruption. Power itself can be a corrupting force, though plenty of people, whether they've been raised in poverty or luxury, can be greedy. While it won't happen right away, history has shown us that corruption is inevitable, meaning another like Snow or Coin could rise before anyone realizes what is happening. The 5th reason we need a Hunger Games sequel is the Everdeen legacy. Having established the messy world which would be left behind in the wake of Snow's fall, the final and most obvious reason for Collins to write a sequel is to see what happens to the children of Katniss and Peeta. After what Katniss endured, we'd all like to see not only a happy ending for her, but for her kids. Otherwise, her fight runs the risk of feeling meaningless. To that end, I don't want the Everdeen-Mallark children to suffer as their parents did. However, if I'm being realistic, such a new government is going to have problems, particularly with a society that's reworking itself. And it would be a stretch for the kids not to be affected. While the son and daughter of Katniss and Peeta likely won't know the hardship their parents did, they'll nevertheless face their own challenges. New citizens of a brand new government and the kids of parents who would be controversial in their own right, they won't have it easy. After all, it's important to note that Katniss won't be remembered as a hero at this point, at least not by everyone. Instead, many would see her as an assassin at worst and a madwoman at best. To those who loyally served Coin in District 13, she's a murderer, hence why she was quietly drawn away, lest she be a target. To former capital citizens, she's the rebel who upended their idyllic lives and caused chaos. For many, district or capital, Katniss would be hated, and were she not living quietly, attempts could even be made on her life. Many in the districts resent Peeta too, given his ceasefire speeches, and disagree with Katniss's push for him and the other tributes to be given clemency. All this to say that Katniss's children could have targets on their back. While some would be happy to hurt or kill the kids simply to get back at Katniss and Peeta, who many would see as having gotten off for murder, others could view the children as a tool. Hoping to manipulate Katniss and Peeta, the children could be kidnapped or else drawn into backdoor schemes. Even if the kids aren't drawn into the many smaller conflicts forcibly, they're going to have their own opinions. The two children could end up fighting with each other, or their parents. And if one of them seeks a career, especially one in politics, they're going to have to fight against the negative image left by their parents. Being an Everdeen or Mallark isn't going to be a bonus, and in many cases may even be a disadvantage. Seeing the next generation grapple with what's being left behind, as well as the choices made by their parents, would be fascinating in and of itself, and I'd love to see the children of Katniss and Peeta assert their own viewpoints, even if they're against those of their parents. Whatever the case, the last book doesn't even give us the children's names. All we know is that Katniss and Peeta had a boy and a girl, both of whom have traits from both parents. Without names or personalities, these kids are blank slates, leaving their futures open-ended. After everything Katniss and Peeta faced, depriving them of a blissful ending feels cruel. At the same time, if we're being realistic, the government raised in the ashes of Snow's empire is going to face problems, both from within and without. From discontent capital citizens to those rebels looking to hold them accountable, Panem isn't going to be a peaceful place. While the stakes won't be as high the second time around, its people, be it the government or Katniss's own children, can expect to face challenges. Be it third-party factions creating unrest, rebels out for blood, capital citizens desperate to reclaim their old lives, or corruption within the government itself, Panem is going to be a mess, and such a chaotic society offers the perfect setting for a conflict-packed sequel series. Plus, with the children of not only Katniss and Peeta at the helm, but possibly Annie's son too, we have a group of ready protagonists who will have to fix the mess their parents left behind. Now, I'm a huge fan of The Hunger Games, but it's not the only series I'd like to see explored further. Though we're all sick of reboots, remakes, and even sequels, I can't pretend there aren't revamps I'm excited for. Maybe I'm the problem, and people like me are the reason originality has died. But I have to be honest. In addition to The Hunger Games, I'm most excited to see the worlds of Harry Potter and Twilight be revisited. And if you want my thoughts on why either could benefit from a reboot, click the videos on screen. Thank you for watching, and happy reading!